another thing I'm going to look into for the next time. I don't like doing this so much when we have like a face-to-face conversation, but like some light background music just to like just be in the background so that like when there's silence, there's something. But you have to be careful with like copyright and stuff. So you have to
Yeah.
find the right stuff that
Maybe
looks
you
like
can the
we're
match,
live.
like match sounds.
Yeah, that might be something like
Like just
that.
cut the audio from any kind of match because you can
Right,
separate and you have the audio track.
right. That might be kind of cool. I like that idea. I'll have to look into that. Maybe I could blend something and faint it out and put it in the background. Maybe it's not, or just maybe like there's like trees, like with the wind blowing and like the match play going on. I don't know. I've always been a fan of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it says we're live. Give it obviously. Okay, we got 4 people in here. Cool. All right, so people are starting to join. I'm assuming you sent the link out to your people, so hopefully they find it all right. If they don't find it this time, let me know, and I'll try to figure out a better way to get them in. But I think that should be about the easiest way to do it. Is just to have my channel, or
yeah. I just told him go to the channel. I made the link, click on this link, and then look for this thumbnail with a big fat red live and click on that.
Right. And even if they're subscribed, they probably don't even have to go to my channel. It will be on their homepage because live videos just show up on the homepage. So if they just opened up YouTube, it should be right there.
Yeah.
But for anybody that is already here, welcome. I'm with Meike Babel right now, fantastic coach from Colorado, former professional WTA player. She's going to be running over some video footage with me today, talking about my match with MEP, aka Ben, aka Green Shirt Guy, whatever you guys know him as. But I'm super looking forward to this because if there's one thing I would like to do eventually in my tennis career, I think it's to take down the MEP.
Yes.
I think everybody in Atlanta would like to take down the MEP at least once, right?
or the MEPs that are out there everywhere.
Right. Any of the MEPs. Yeah. I've played probably 10 at this point, and they all have a winning record against me. So it's definitely a kryptonite of mine for sure. But yeah, absolutely. I want to see Meike play the MEP. That's what I want to see.
I mean, once I'm feeling more comfortable with traveling, because I still have friends in Atlanta, and so it wouldn't, be totally outrageous to say like, hey, I'll come down for a weekend.
Right.
I think I have the distinct advantage then that I had like high altitude training.
Right. Oh, yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're coming out here, it takes about a month to really get the idea of how to play in altitude.
Right.
So yeah. We cannot play in July or August.
Just not happening. No. Nope.
Yeah, that's.
Nope. No, I remember I went to a camp out in Colorado. We were actually higher up than Denver because we went up to the mountains from there. And we were playing like ultimate frisbee and stuff in the mountains, and man, would it wind you fast. Like it was brutal.
And the balls are flying, and
and the sun's beating down on you, burning.
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have some things stacked against you when you play here. That's why we don't have any pro tournaments, because nobody wants to play in this.
Okay. That would make sense to me. I mean, the football players that are, what do they have, like a Denver football team, right? Professional football team or something like
Broncos.
that. They always have kind of an advantage in their home stadium because they're used to it. So.
And I think, random side note, longest field goal ever was actually, scored here in Atlanta, in Colorado, in Denver, 63.
Oh wow.
That's just a side note. That's always,
right.
Something. Like the longest field goal ever kicked was in Denver.
Right.
Yeah. Because just stuff flies. So yeah.
All right. So Ben actually just texted me. He is in here. He said that he has the speakers all the way up, and the live stream audio volume is kind of low for him. So I'm gonna try to turn my mic up and my desktop audio up here for the stream. See if we can make that louder. Ben, I just made it probably 20% louder, I would say. So if this sounds better, Meike, could you talk as well?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I can be louder, not a problem.
No, you're talking loud. I mean, like I can hear everything quite loud. So if I can hear you pretty loud, that should mean that it's fine. But maybe I just had it down on my stream a little bit. So if he texts me back, hopefully in a second, and says it's better, that would be nice. But that's good. Ben is in here, so
Awesome. The MEP.
the MEP.
Yeah. At least like two degrees removed, I get to hang with the MEP now.
There you go. All right. Well, we'll give it. I mean, probably give it another just couple minutes here, and then we'll get started. Give everybody a chance to join. Do you have any fun facts or any things that happened today that were fun that you want to share?
Fun? No, not necessarily. Other than I'm really. Ben, yes, if you are in there, on there, and if you're hearing us, hopefully, a friend / client of mine, Vicky, or Vic, texted me this morning, oh my God, you have MEP on your channel. And I was like, well, it's not my channel, and not, I don't really know him, but it's, MEP is an icon for the YouTube players, and she follows it, and she follows Essential Tennis and everybody. So I'm a little in awe, so I'm a little nervous here. So hopefully I can help him out with some stuff. But yeah, there is definitely stuff that he can be doing to be, what would you then call him? Most exhaustive and annoying player if he gets even.
Yeah. What do you call the most exhausting player when he gets even better? I want to see him. I know he's looking forward to it. Ian from Essential Tennis. He didn't have the best performance against Ian there, but he was way out of his element. So we have to stick up for our guy, because indoor courts are not prevalent here in Georgia, and an indoor court plays much different than a hard court. And then also combine that with our 90-degree humidity. Ben plays a much better game on our courts than on the indoor courts. So I'm really looking forward to when they come down here to seeing that rematch. And I'm going to be there in person for that one. So
I'm seeing, I mean, yes, as we talked before, it's like, if I ever come to Atlanta, it will not be in July. It will not be in August. That is for sure, because I remember those summers. And that's, it is a different ball game. If you've never played anywhere in the South in those months, it's a different ball game. So I want to see that rematch too.
For sure. All right. Well, I'll transition screens here and let you get set up to the first thing that you want to go over if you're all ready on your end.
I'm ready, and I think what I do want to do is before I get into the my app there, because I remember reading some of the comments on your video playing against MEP. And I just want to send that before. I really, really am not happy when people call other players pushers.
Okay.
Because to me, that's in a way disrespectful. And I did a little video on that. Actually, to me, it's if somebody, and Ben, the MEPs of the world, I think to me, they're really, really smart players, because they know exactly what they know and what they can and cannot do. So if they know of themselves that, hey, I don't have a massive forehand or, a 200 miles per hour serve, and they're just very content with playing within themselves, then to me, that's a really, really smart decision. Because I remember from coaches, from, other players, well, why don't you play in a certain way? And I'm like, well, because I can't.
Right.
The example that I always have is when I grew up, Steffi Graf was the dominant, factor basically in tennis in Germany, and everybody was trying to have every kid copy Steffi's forehand, me included, and our national coach said, well, you have to hit it like Steffi. I'm like,
say, well, I'm not Steffi.
Have you seen my footwork?
Yeah.
I am not Steffi. So for then to be derogative towards that player, to me, is really disrespectful. So I use the word, but I always put it in air quotes or parentheses, or quotation marks, I should say, because it's up to you to beat these people. And so when we now look at the footage, the way that I want to present it is, and let me do the nerve-wracking transition here, actually, changing my screen.
It's all right. I've got you off screen right now, so do your thing.
I am doing slow-mo. Do you see the match now?
Nothing quite yet.
Uh-oh.
Let's see. Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, it almost had it.
How's that?
All right. I think we're good now.
You see it?
Yep.
Okay. Good. So the screen, the match?
Yep.
Okay, good. So the way that I structured my video is a little bit, so a lot of players and a lot of people commented on your video and also on MEP's video against Ian. Well, it's easy to beat somebody like that. And I agree that if you are significantly better, then yes, it is quote unquote easy to beat, somebody who's very content of, getting a lot of balls back, of moving like a crazy person and just being really, really consistent. And I think I really appreciated that you did that you said like, well, but Ian is just a much better player.
Right.
So I think the MEPs exist everywhere. Right. You are a 4-5 or a 5-0. I mean, I remember playing Amanda Kutzer. There was another Israeli player that if you went on the court with them, you knew that you played 2 hours, even if the result was 6-1, 6-1, because right. That's how they play.
Right.
So unless you really have the means to outplay them, this is going to be a really difficult match to play. And I think you used the 3 strategies that usually we always suggest. And I want to show those first. But then I want to go a little deeper and show and give you suggestions on how to create those opportunities. Because I think that is when I talk to players that say, oh, I lost against, again, air quotation, a pusher. Well, how do you structure the points to get the opportunity to come into net, to get the opportunity to use your strength, your forehand, out hit them, or to bring them in? Because that is really the deceit part that they're so deceptively good at, that they're just not giving you these opportunities all day long. You have to create them. Yeah. And that is, I think, a little bit more important even than knowing, yeah, I should be coming in. I should hit my forehand. So that's kind of where I want to dig a little bit deeper. But just to kind of show the options that you have, and you specifically, Alex, you have all these options.
Okay.
It's just about stringing them together more consistently. And then you will beat your MEP. And I'm saying your MEP because I think a lot of people have their, nemesis out there. So I want to just go down with the pace a little bit so I have time. So this is the very first point actually of the match. And the first strategy that we have is you can attack the net. And you do that really well here. You're using your forehand to structure the point. You're forcing that short ball. And what I liked about that forehand is that you're really, really calm, really balanced, and you're going into the open court.
Right. Yeah, that was a good one.
Problem is, player like MEP does not give you those balls all the time. And the pressure that I felt against my MEPs is they're very, very good at passing. They're very good at getting balls just down to your feet. They're very good at lobbing. And everybody who watched this match, and remember how many times Alex had to run back and retrieve a lob off of pretty good approach shots. Right. So, you can't really just say like, well, you just come in. So you also have the pressure of having to play really, really exact balls.
Right.
And then,
and it can't be understated how many times a player like Ben, because he's used to the playing like this, he's hit 10,000 more lobs than I've ever hit, because those are shots that work for him, and those are shots that he practices a lot. Whereas, myself coming to net, and that might happen a few times in a match, or if I'm playing against somebody like this, maybe a few extra times, but he's going to hit those lobs more times than not because he's hit so many of them. So
yeah, and you're forced constantly to hit really accurate shots, which at your level and at every level, it's always proportional then, is very, very difficult, right? So, and it adds logical pressure to the whole thing. So now we're getting to where you're doing a really good job. So you're attacking a shorter serve. And as a coach, I don't have an issue with that last point. So I'll just let it run in real time to just see that, because you're doing the right thing, right? And that's exactly what I'm trying to say. If you're stringing these together more consistently and you're making those shots, then it'll become a lot easier beating the MEPs of the world, right? So you're just missing that, but you're playing the exact correct way, I would say, right? Trying to come into net, taking time away, and opening the court. And the next one, I really do like that point. So you're using your forehand here, and I think you're doing a really good job, and this is what we're going to talk about later a little bit. When you see the MEP here in this area, it's going to be a defensive ball. And you're doing a really good job seeing that and moving in. And again, as a coach, I don't care that you missed that ball. Right? Yes, could I say you could have gone up a little quicker? You could have maybe even used it as a regular volley. You could have brushed heavier. Yes, I can say that. But to me, it's really more important that you're seeing that you hurt your opponent. Right? You're seeing him out of the court, and you're moving in immediately. That to me is a more valuable takeaway from this match than if you had made that almost. I mean, it would have been great if you make it, but tough baloney. It would have felt better. Right. And then you probably would have done it more often.
Right.
Right.
At least I put myself in the right spot. So
yeah, exactly. And then you get the confidence to do that more often. And that is one way, to put pressure on Ben, to take balls where he usually feels like he can just roll them back in the court. You take them out of the air and, just go to the open side. And that also, puts more pressure on him. So we're going to look at this point actually a couple of times a little later on. So this is where it then looks really, where it looks really, really easy when you win the point. Right? Because, it's great. I mean, it's not difficult to put this ball away. And as I said, we're looking at this point later, and I want to point out how you actually got to the point where you were.
Okay.
So the next point, and I did not do a good job there editing the title out, is there were comments on your channel about the slice. So again, that's a very deceptive thing that Ben has as one of his weapons. Is the slice. And if you're not as used to playing that a whole lot of times, you have to adjust. And Alex, do you want to say what you said after in your video?
Yeah, I missed a whole lot more volleys and overheads and those kinds of shots out of the air because of the kind of English or spin or whatever you want to call it that Ben puts on the ball. Because of the way he strikes the ball under the ball, it's got that kind of backspin on it. That's not a shot that I'm used to receiving for a volley. I already struggle with those shots at my level to begin with, so having to hit them differently with a different kind of spin on them made me hit a lot of them into the net. I needed to punch them or hit them harder or follow through with them more, and I just wasn't, because I just wasn't used to those shots, and so it took me a while to adjust to that.
Yeah, and in this particular example here, you're doing, and this was meant to dealing with slice type of text. You're doing a really good job, and I want to point that out because you will get these players. So what happens is when somebody hits the slice, and especially on this one, it was a little floatier. I'm trying to do this here as a side view of the court. So if this here is the net, I'm doing this. Can you see that?
Yep.
So if somebody hits if somebody hits a topspin, the ball jumps through the court a lot more.
Right.
On the slice, especially when it's a little floatier, it sits up a little bit more. So if you're placing your feet, if you're addressing the ball as you would a regular topspin, you're stopping short. And that's when you then have to reach and do all kinds of other things. Right. So what you did on this last one really well is you moved up to the ball really quickly, and you imparted your spin very aggressively over that spin, over that backspin. So when you have somebody who hits very knifey slices, which he does, but if you have this more of a sitter here, you have to really get up there and what you said, hit through the ball and kind of, I want to say bully your spin onto the ball rather than letting his spin bully your racket. And especially on volleys, you have to really, really punch through and hold your racket, because if you don't, they just kind of roll literally in the strings of the racket and just drop down. So that's something, if you see him even in warm-ups, oh, okay, let me really be aggressive here with my feet and also with my racket work. And I think this one was a really, really good ball. Right. So I just wanted to point that out.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So, so the next one is what a lot of people say, like, okay, you move him up. So Ben, if you're still there, one thing that I noticed is that, you know, he's rather reluctant to come in. And I think that will be one of the major things that he can work on. There are a lot of times when he has somebody struggling and he's staying back behind the baseline, instead of taking maybe 1 or 2 steps in and then doing what you did to him earlier, taking the ball out of the air. When he does come in, he kind of was a little hesitant to come in all the way. So that was really one thing that I noticed, that he's a little reluctant to come in. So that then is your cue to move him up, to force him to do something that he doesn't like.
Right.
And you're doing that here. And even though that's not like a super fantastic shot that you're hitting, you're doing a couple of things really well. And I'm going to go back to almost regular pace. So you're just slicing it back. You're bringing him in. And you're also doing a really good job cutting the angles off, because he's got these two here and you're on the bisector of an angle. So now you're forcing him to play the ball right on the line.
Right.
And again, having to do this consistently, nobody likes that, right? And so you're just forcing an arrow. And that's sometimes when you're playing somebody who is not giving you much, forcing errors doesn't feel good enough in a way. But that's where you really have to work on your mindset a little bit. It's like, hey, no, I'm going to be happy forcing errors off of him, just like he's happy to force errors off of me. And you're doing the same here. That he seems to almost be a little surprised, because he's kind of, oh, now I have to move forward. And it's just that little hesitation there, that he's not properly spaced to the ball, and he's giving you a freebie, which he usually doesn't do a lot.
Right. And I don't know if you can see, can you see chat, Meike, or should I read it to you?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Ben actually commented in chat. He said, yeah, I tend to react pretty slowly to having hit a good shot. It's an area of development for me, but give me some time. It's only been 11 years.
Good. And this is, for instance, also a ball, Ben, it's awesome that you're on there, right? This could almost be where you're then using that ball and you're coming all the way in, right? So that is something that you're working on, not just coming in when it's not on your terms, but really make it into, okay, I want to make that a part of my game. I can come in on my own terms, because you're getting plenty of short balls that, to my mind, he can expose a lot more.
Yeah.
Because he's got good volleys. I mean, he did
does.
take a couple of volleys, and there's no reason why he shouldn't come in. And then, of course, you always have the option. You can try to out-hit somebody. And that is what I think a lot of people try to do too much when they play somebody, because there's such an anxiety about, like, oh, I have to hit 59 balls right. to even get a ball. Right. That they're just trying to tee off on stuff that doesn't make sense. This one, big time, made sense, of course, right? Because you're right. very much in control. You're almost inside the court. I think the ball lands a little bit, and you're doing a really good job there, stepping up and being aggressive with that ball. And exactly, same thing. So you have to consistently, though, hit these balls to beat somebody like Ben, and that's not the easiest thing.
Exactly.
And I think that's what people don't realize, how much work it is to get these short balls. If you look back at the serve that you hit here that forced that return, that was a really good serve. Right, so he's stretched there a little bit. He can just bunt it back, basically. And you have to immediately react to it.
Right.
So now we're getting into, how do I create these 3 opportunities that you have, or these 3 tactical tools? I can come in, I can try to out-hit or be really, really aggressive, or bring him in. So, and I'm not sure if this has more to do with this was my kind of game, or it has more to do that I think the majority of players here grow up on hard court.
Okay.
So one of the biggest things that I'm taking away from Ben, when you're when you're looking at most of the points, he's in this area. And he's super happy to just go right, go left, go up a little bit, go back a little bit. What he doesn't like, and again, this is all the MEPs, play off of this area.
Right.
That is where you get your opportunities.
Right.
So what are the balls that you have? What are the opportunities that you have to create a ball that bounces and then cuts the single sideline before it passes the baseline? Because that's the criteria when we're doing testing and all that kind of stuff. What is a good ball that opens the court? Because a regular adult who has no kind of physical limitations is able to hit any ball that just travels through the court here within like 2-3 steps. And that's what you want to do. And this is true at world-class level as well. The more somebody has to move, the less accurate their balls will be, the more opportunities you create for yourself. Doesn't mean that they outright miss the ball. I mean, Ben doesn't outright miss these balls,
right,
but he gives you balls that you can do something with in this area of the court. That's what you want.
right.
So what I do want to look at is, when can you create angles? Because that is going to hurt a lot of people. And this also goes for Ben with his slice. I would love for him to just use the slice to chip it a little shorter, and we'll go over that in a minute then. So one thing when you have somebody serving like Ben, he has a very, very flat serve, right? It doesn't sit up. Like, you can't really attack it as well and hit through the court.
It stays super low. That was one thing I was actually real impressed with.
Yeah. So it's not the fastest serve, but it's a well-placed serve. It doesn't give you a whole lot of, oomph that you can return with.
Right.
So you want to look at the balls here that already have an angle and that are shorter. So to me, those are opportunities to start the ball with an angle. So in this return here, instead of going, just up the line, see if you can have your target area, I mean, obviously not in the out zone,
right,
to start the point by pulling him off instead of going through the court. So I was always taught an angle begets an angle. I know it sounds very weird. When the ball is short and it lands in this area. And I think this is kind of cool that you actually have the junior lines, because that's a really good indicator when you're inside the court, like you are here, that gives you an opportunity for an angle. So there were plenty of balls, and this is just one, where you had the opportunity, to my mind, to start right away to put pressure on Ben by pulling him out of the court. Right, and then he gets a short ball, and then he starts with the angle, right? And then you're just missing. I think that was a little later in the match when you're already kind of tired in 8,000 degrees in Atlanta.
It happens.
So the other option, of course, you have to start a point off with an angle is always your serve, right? So if I go to that, I mean, here you're not, but you do that plenty of times, and you get a lot of balls, of course, and everybody knows that by now, right? Serve +1. So if you're starting to angle this out, then you have a whole target area here, and you have that serve, right? So it's maybe just using it a little bit more deliberately and consciously to create those opportunities.
Right, definitely. That's actually a comment I got on my last video.